Hey there, 8th grade. And Eli, I figured today we would just jump right into the assignment and do a few examples. Yesterday went pretty well. There were a few things that we missed here and there, especially with the excluded value. So I'll really talk about that today, especially when we get to that bottom section. That was probably the most common area where we made some mistakes. Remember, your excluded values for this top section are the numbers that you couldn't have for the variables in the denominator that would make it equal 0, okay? So let's find the excluded values. Now, remember, you're doing the top, all of them, and then the bottom, the odds, okay? So let's do a couple up here. Like, for instance, p could not be 7 for number 1, because that would make our denominator 0, right? Or for, let's do one where you have to factor a little bit. Let's do number 6. So we did number 1. We'll do number 6 as well. So 6, if I was going to factor the bottom, here's what I would get, right? Let's see. We need a pair here. B plus 5 and B plus 2, right, would give me a 10 that add up to 7 there. And so notice the excluded values then. I would put both of those equaling 0 and then solve for B. So in other words, I'd get negative 5 and negative 2. So B cannot be negative 5 or negative 2. That little slash through the equal sign, it means the excluded value, okay? Let's get you going on a couple on the bottom. I'm going to do the ones that are similar because you don't have quite so many on the bottom. Just want to give you enough practice. So notice number 8 is very similar to number 7 right across from there, right? Some of them you just need to divide out pieces. So notice like both of these pieces can be divided by 12. So I end up with 1 over 2, right? And then remember when you're dividing, you subtract. So if we subtract our m's, we get m, right? And then r to the negative second. Now you don't want to leave a negative power, so flip that to the bottom and make it positive. So it ends up being m over 2 times r to the second. Hopefully that makes some sense. Don't forget the second part of the answer then for these bottom sections. There's 3 answers. You've got your simplified expression, then don't forget to state the excluded value. So remember, anytime you're stating the excluded values, look back at the original denominator, okay, and ask yourself what those letters cannot be. For instance, m cannot be 0, because if it was 0, everything on the bottom would become 0. And r cannot be 0 either, because if it was, everything on the bottom would become 0. So we got our 3 solutions. We have our simplified and then our 2 exclusions. Let's do one that's like number 11, okay, just like it. Notice on this one here, number 12, I can divide out a 4x from both of these, right? And I can divide out a 4 from both of these. So I end up with just like negative 1 over 1, right? In other words, negative 1. There's my simplified solution. Then again, we're going to look back at the original denominator to find our excluded values. Okay, obviously x cannot be negative 1, right? Because if it did, we'd get negative 4, which plus 4 would give us a 0. All right, we'll actually do number 17. This is one where we have to factor. Okay, notice on the top, we can factor out a 2, can't we? So let's do that. Always factor them out if you can. That'll simplify it up a little bit. And then notice for the bottom, if we factor this, let's see, 7 and 5, right? How about negative 7, so d minus 7, and d plus 5 would give us that negative 2 that we need, and negative 35, right? Okay, now that we've factored both, we can cancel some things out, can't we? Right, we can cancel that out and that out. So that leaves us with 2 over d minus 7. Okay, but remember, in order to get all of our excluded values, we have to go back to the original, okay, denominator, and both of those will be excluded values. So d minus 7 equals 0, and d plus 5 equals 0. So in other words, 7 and negative 5. So d cannot be 7 or negative 5. Okay, some of you, I think, were forgetting to go back to the original equation, and so you were only having like 1 excluded value when really you needed to have 2. Hopefully that makes some sense. All right, that was a real quick video just to get you off to a good start. Just be careful about those excluded values. Remember, when you're done simplifying on the bottom here, go back to the original equation to help you get both of your excluded values instead of just one today. Otherwise, it went really well yesterday. Have a good rest of your day, guys. We'll talk to you soon.